What is going down, fellas? It is Mr. Perfect, and we are here with a week 3 recap of all the games that went down. We're going to get right into it this week. The Giants and Rudy fell to the Denver Broncos 17-19. The Giants are now 2-1. This is his first loss of the season. Daniel Jones, quarterback, went 10 for 22, 153 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Saquon Barkley had 31 rushes, 156 rushing yards, 3 receptions, 49 receiving yards, and 2 scores. Linebacker Lorenzo Carter had 3 tackles, 2 sacks. That was all the highlights from his game. Nothing else really was stand out about this in the loss. Next we have the 49ers, Max 49ers, taking on the Lions, where the 49ers advanced to 3-0, winning 28-13. Quarterback Kyler Murray for the 49ers went 21 for 29, 247 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 rushes, 27 yards. Running back Tevin Coleman went 3 rushes, 21 yards, and a score. Tight end Kittle, 5 receptions, 89 yards, and D Ford came up with 2 sacks. Very good for a D end. We're moving right along, and we have Lamb's Packers fall to 1-2 as they fall to the Ravens, GM'd by Jude. The score of this game was 23-33. Aaron Rodgers came out on fire, 318 yards, 2 scores, 2 picks. Running back Jones had 8 rushes, 43 yards, and a touchdown. Wide receiver for the Packers, Valdez-Scantling, came up with the AFC Player of the Week with this stat line. 4 receptions, 200 yards, and 2 scores. That is impressive. And as for the winner, Jube, Baltimore, Lamar Jackson went 13 for 17, 188 yards. But the story of this game was the Ravens rookie running back Overton. He had 22 rushes for 115 yards and 3 scores. They are feeding him the ball down in Baltimore. Wide receiver Brown, 12 receptions, 167 yards. Also, the defense came out to play. Outside linebacker Young had 3 sacks, as well as Smith had 5 tackles for 2 sacks. He leads the league in sacks with 9 sacks. These boys in Baltimore came out to play. And we have the Pittsburgh Steelers falling to the Cleveland Browns, 56-24. The Browns now move to 3-0. Quarterback Baker Mayfield, 18 for 27, 409 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. Running back Ricks had 8 rushes, 66 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Wide receiver OBJ, 7 receptions, 181 yards, 3 touchdowns, and he was named the AFC Player of the Week. DN Myles Garrett had 5 tackles, 3 sacks, and no tossed helmets. Now we're going to go down and check out the game between the Miami Dolphins, led by Lucas. He pulled out the victory. Now moves to 1-1. That tie is in there. And he came up big, 1 point against the now 2-1 Panthers. Miami's quarterback McManus went 25 for 41, 429 yards, 4 scores, 2 interceptions. The Dolphins receiver Cooper Kupp, 7 receptions, 157 yards. Their strong safety Jamal Adams, 4 tackles, 2 sacks, and 1 forced fumble. That is a great pickup by the Dolphins. Might be the pickup of the year. Miami's middle linebacker Bush had 6 tackles and 2 sacks as we head to Carolina and show their stat line. Quarterback Teddy Bridgewater, 12 for 16, 207 yards, 2 scores, 1 interception. Running back Christian McCaffrey, 17 rushes, 37 yards, 2 touchdowns. Their wide receiver Samuels, 6 receptions, 144 yards, and a score. That was big, but the stat of this game came from middle linebacker Luke Kuechly, 6 tackles, 1 sack, 4 forced fumbles. He is the NFL Defensive Player of the Week in this game. And now we move to what happened here between the Eagles, who moved to 2-1 as they beat Green Figure, who is now 1-2, 17-14. Pat Mahomes had quite the stat line in this game, 19 for 34, 291 yards, 1 score, 2 picks, 2 rushes for 8 yards, and a touchdown. Their wide receiver Hartman, 7 catches, 151 yards, and a score. I don't know how the hell he lost this game. Middle linebacker White had 6 tackles for 3 sacks, but he did come up short against the CPU Eagles. Now, this was a great stat line game. The Cam's Patriots moved to 2-1 as they beat the CPU Jets. The Cam's Patriots are now 2-1. 40-7, they beat the Jets. Their quarterback, Josh Dobbs, went 27 for 34, 339 yards, 2 scores. And what a weird game this was. Tight end Jimmy Graham had 9 rushes for 21 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. He had 2 receptions for 35 yards and a receiving touchdown. You don't see Jimmy Graham running the ball like this probably ever. His wide receiver, Mohamed Sanu, came up with 7 receptions, 99 yards, and a TD. Linebacker Ryan Kerrigan, 3 tackles, 1 sack, 1 pick. Way to go, Cam. Now we have Mac Mac falling 16-17 to the Saints. The Falcons now move to 2-1. Their rookie quarterback Levy went 12 for 19, 225 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. Julio Jones, 5 receptions, 96 yards, 1 touchdown. I don't know what's going on with this Falcons team. I know he had jumped into the league late, but he needs to find players and put together wins if he wants to make it in the NFC playoff race. I'll tell you this right now. Move Julio. Get some picks, get some players. There's teams out here that would be willing to trade for him. So now we have the Chicago Tigers. Team Fight On moves to 3-0 as they beat the Rams 38-35. Deshaun Watson, 7 for 15, 122 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 11 rushes for 89 yards and 2 scores. Quite a day for Mr. Watson. The Tigers running back Ronald Jones went for 8 rushes, 59 yards, and 2 scores. And the man of the hour, defensive end Jadeveon Clowney, 7 tackles, 4 sacks. Jeez, that is a whole lot of man over there in Chicago. Strong safety, Edmonds had 6 tackles and 1 interception. Now, we are going to go through some stats of the week as far as where we lined up as of week 3. So the passing leaders, QB out of Cleveland, Baker Mayfield, 1,109 passing yards. Rushing yards leader, Baltimore, rookie Overton, 374 yards. Reception is Baltimore, wide receiver Brown, 598 yards. The interception leader down in Miami, quarterback McManus with 9 picks so far. He's up there in touchdowns too, though, but for I believe it's his first year in the second year in the league, and he's got to stop turning the ball over so much. Sack leader, Jadeveon Clowney. Interception leader, Hooker out of uh, the Jets, 3 picks. Passing touchdowns, Cleveland, Baker Mayfield, 9 touchdowns. As far as it's tied so far. Miami quarterback McManus does have 9, as I just said. Rushing touchdown leader Overton with 7. OBJ leads the league as far as week 3 is concerned with 6 touchdowns. Now we're going to go to our team stats. Total offense, we have Cleveland. We're going to do top 5. Cleveland. Yards per game, Cleveland 506.3. Chicago is 403.3. San Francisco 409.0. Chargers 407.5 yards per game. And last but not least, Green Bay with 403. I'm sorry, number 2 was 460, I believe. So give credit where credit's due. Passing yards, number 1, Cleveland, 364.7 passing yards per game. Oakland came in at number 2 with 316.5 passing yards per game. San Francisco, 287.3. Cincinnati, 274.0. And Green Bay bringing up the rear. No offense, Lamb. 271.7. Now we have the rushing yards. This is where it gets interesting. The Chicago Tigers lead the league in rushing with 265.7 rush yards. Right behind them is the New York Giants with 179.0. Baltimore there, 170.3. Arizona, 146.5. And Cleveland with 141.7. Now, this is defensive yards per game. Baltimore has the best at 178.3. New England with 218.3. Miami with 227.3. The New York Giants with 335.5 yards per game. And Atlanta with 250 right on the dot. That was yards per game. Passing yards per game. New England Patriots ranked number 1, only allowing 139.5 passing yards per game. Miami, 139.7. So that's a tight race right there. Baltimore is 152.7. Detroit is ranking in at number 4 with 182.5. And Tennessee, 2 CPU teams. Tennessee with 182.7. Allowing rushes per game. Baltimore shutting down the run, only allowing 25.7 rushes per game. Rushing yards per game. New York Giants with 40.5. Right behind him is the Cleveland Browns at 52.7. Right behind that, coming in at number 4, is San Francisco with 60.7, and the CPU Washington Redskins at 65.0. Some good defensive stats, a lot of users in that. Defense ever since they tweaked it a little bit has been, I know for me personally, I've been getting better, and my players have been seemingly play better since, multiple patches, but that could come and go. We're going to take a look at the rookies, the rookie watch, the passing leader down in Atlanta, Levy, 548 yards. Rushing, obviously, goes to Baltimore. Rookie running back, Overton. Miami goes with receiving with Whittington. He only has 43 yards per the season so far. I feel like someone could come and have a big game and boost that right up. For defense, Cleveland for the most tackles. Cleveland strong safety Millard has 9 in sacks. D end is Gonzalez out of Baltimore. So fellas, that is gonna wrap it up for week 3 and the stats and stuff like that. Just wanted to make a quick video out there. And we're going to go on. I know a majority of us have already played week 4, so I will give another rundown when that happens. Again, this is Mr. Perfect. I've rambled on for 15 minutes. It's your boy. Get your games in. Much love. Peace.